guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
Here we are, just the two of us. If Patreon's your thing, check out the link in the description below. Loads and loads of stuff on there, all starting for a bargain price of just
£1.50 a month.
Yeah, and you get loads of stuff on there as well. You won't be disappointed. Check it out and see if you like it.
Yeah.
What's inside the world's most secret room, 641A?
641A, eh?
That's don't know anything about this.
Neither do I. I'm guessing, would it be in the White House or some sort of nuclear facility or Pentagon maybe?
Sort of,
Pentagon's a big place, isn't it? Yeah. Loads of rooms in there. So
you think it'd be somewhere I don't think the White House would have somewhere the most secret room. Although they do have secret rooms, don't they? And bunkers and stuff. I guess
they will do. Yeah.
But the Capitol maybe.
Yeah.
Or the Pentagon is what I'm thinking.
Pentagon's got a lot. It's huge in it, so I'm guessing it's probably more likely to be that. But
let's get into it. What's inside the world's most secret room? 641A. I think it'll be like in 641B.
It's fireproof and earthquake-proof, protected by a blast-resistant security door that demands biometrics and multiple forms of ID to open. Inside the room is the pinnacle of early 2000s computer technology, all pouring over vast quantities of data for one single purpose. But the truth about room 641A, the most secretive room in the world, is more disturbing than you can imagine. September 11th, 2001 changed everything, forever. On that fateful day, the United States suffered the deadliest terror attack in human history. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost, and the financial cost soared into the billions. In a single devastating operation, terrorists targeting America had toppled a global financial center and sent shockwaves around the world. But the terrorists had done something even greater. They'd made America feel vulnerable for the first time since the Japanese sneak attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. This attack was different and far more dangerous. The perpetrators didn't represent any nation-state. They were extensions of a vast network that spanned the entire globe. This enemy operated without borders, slipping through the cracks of international law and evading the reach of conventional military strategies. There were no factories to bomb, no capitals to siege, and no armies to meet on the battlefield. The enemy was invisible, a shadowy terror network that struck when least expected. Western intelligence networks were abuzz with activity in the wake of the attacks in the US, and a lot of the news was very bad. There were rumors that nations with anti-Western sentiments were either willing or might have already provided new weapons to Osama bin Laden's terror networks. His success had emboldened them and increased their confidence in him and his organization's ability to strike at their shared enemy. Rumors of chemical weapons being smuggled out of nations like Iran and Iraq hit the vast web Western intelligence agencies had spun around the world. Some of these agents were absolutely deadly, and in small quantities they could bring an entire city to its knees. The ease with which terrorists had struck at one of the most populated cities in the world and nearly gotten to the American capital opened the eyes of many counterterrorism professionals to the...
Imagine the intelligence you need to sort of like keep on top of this.
Nowadays. Absolutely incredible. It's literally worldwide, isn't it?
It is, but can you imagine how many sort of like operatives you need to sort of like implant in these places as well to get your intelligence that you need?
They must have thousands around the world. They absolutely must have. There's that many countries, that many places, and that many cities. That, you know, they've got to be absolutely everywhere.
It goes to show how good they must be as well, some of them, to sort of like...
Oh, I'll bet, yeah.
I mean, we probably don't hear about half the shit that goes down. That
we shouldn't do, really, should we?
That gets dealt with and just sort of like moved on.
I think the whole point is to keep it like that, isn't it? As much as possible, so,
The true horrors of what a future attack could bring. For example, in 1995, domestic terrorists in Japan had released small quantities of sarin gas into the subway in Tokyo. This attack, despite being small in scale, still killed over a dozen people while seriously injuring 50, leaving them with lifelong disabilities. Over 6,000 total were exposed to sarin, and the most terrifying part for terrorism experts was that the same homegrown group that had carried out these attacks had managed to produce other far more deadly nerve agents, such as VX. With the swelling of resources and personnel at its disposal, there was no telling what kind of hell Al-Qaeda could unleash. A far more sophisticated attack, using deadly VX gas in a major city like New York or Los Angeles, could kill thousands and require an expensive cleanup effort costing billions of dollars. Lingering particles not properly cleaned could kill for a long time after the initial attack. The problems for Western intelligence were mounting by the day, and they needed to act, but to act they needed information. And this was where Room 641A came into the picture. The United States took an early lead in global telecommunications, with domestic companies such as AT&T building the backbone of the global telecommunications network. This put America in a position of privilege no other nation in the world could enjoy, if it was willing to bend the rules a bit, and it definitely was. Within months of September 11th, the National Security Agency had already had the telephone records from tens of millions of American citizens. Newspapers would call it the largest database ever assembled in the world, with the goal to create a database of every call ever made from inside America's borders. But it would definitely not end at America's internationally recognized border, and Room 641A made that all possible. But one man, Mark Klein, a former AT&T technician, couldn't simply go into retirement and allow what he saw as a massive constitutional breach of power go unanswered. It all started in the aftermath of the attacks of September 11th, within an unassuming AT&T switching center tucked away in the heart of San Francisco. From this hub, phone and internet traffic on AT&T and its affiliated networks coursed in and out of the United States, connecting the nation to a broader world. Every day, millions of calls and emails passed through this hub, and among them, some were being used by terrorists to coordinate their plans. It wasn't a case of maybe, it was a certainty. The 9/11 attacks had been orchestrated using coded messages over public networks. Soon after the attacks, construction began at the San Francisco AT&T switching center. Next to the massive call routing room, buried deep within the switching center, a new office was quietly under construction. The contractors weren't from any local firm, and AT&T employees were explicitly instructed not to speak to them. Not that it mattered, they never initiated conversation anyway. The workers wore simple civilian clothing and did their work diligently, breaking together for lunch and going home together. At night, special security personnel guarded the cordoned-off, curtained construction site. Their orders were clear: never look behind the curtains unless an intruder, fire, or another emergency required it. From outside, the new office looked unremarkable. Its nondescript facade gave little indication of what lay within. A heavy security door was installed, and layers of thick curtains ensured that no curious AT&T employee could glimpse into what was being built or how. Inside, the soon-to-be NSA remote lab employed cutting-edge construction methods and advanced materials engineered to block any attempts at mechanical or electronic surveillance. Then came the unmarked box trucks. Always late at night, crews wearing no uniforms unloaded large pallets under armed guard. The pallets were covered with large, thick blankets, making it impossible to even guess at the shape of the contents underneath.
What's it said? Salam alaikum on the way in.
Jeez.
They're all from Iraq.
Yeah, could you imagine?
Yeah,
I mean, I suppose it's the way to do it. In not putting it in like the Pentagon or put it in like an unassuming building. It's probably going to go under the radar a hell of a lot more than putting it in sort of like something that's, you know, sort of in the public eye.
Like they said, it's like an intrusion on like security and stuff like that. They say on personal security, but at the same time, it's needed.
That's the thing. There's a fine line, there is between the public being spied and have your own freedoms and sort of like national security. You know, sometimes national security is just is above absolutely everything. I get that, but
I don't think anyone's looking at your text messages and your phone calls that are sort of like, you know, organising your deliveries, you know, your Uber Eats or whatever. But I think if you start using keywords that they know, I think that probably linked towards it. Then it does. Yeah.
Beneath, under the cover of darkness, the crews and their guards quietly offloaded the equipment, transporting it deep into the facility. The entire operation unfolded right under the noses of the regular security staff, whose camera access to that section had been temporarily disabled. They were warned to stay away or suffer stiff fines combined with prison time. Hidden beneath those thick blankets were stacks of cutting-edge computer equipment, some of the most advanced technology in the world at the time. All of it being installed in secret inside a meticulously designed, highly air-conditioned room with fireproof walls built to withstand even a major earthquake. The only access to the soon-to-be top-secret computer farm was through a single security door, secured by multiple forms of identification and biometric scans. A solitary fiber optic cable connected the room to the adjacent switching center, serving as its only link to the outside world. That fiber optic cable was the key to the whole operation, because through it ran the internet and telephone information on millions of American and foreign citizens. Tapping directly into AT&T WorldNet circuits, the NSA installed an STA 6400 computer system. This had the capability to analyze telephone calls and emails in real time and connect directly to a phone line or internet service provider. This miniature supercomputer could sort through mountains of data, looking for pre-programmed keywords that could link a caller or an email user to a terrorist plot. Soon, Mark Klein would learn that his center's secret NSA room was only one of possibly dozens operating around the clock all across the country. The United States' intelligence apparatus had succeeded in tapping into the communications of the entire planet. Somewhere in a country with borders inside the vast African Sahara Desert, a ruggedized C-130 touches down. The airplane had been flying low for miles, skimming just over 100 feet above the ground as it thundered across the Saharan landscape, scattering herdsmen and their flocks in its wake. Now deep inland, it reached its destination. The aircraft descended into the flat, arid terrain, its cargo bay opening to unload massive fuel bladders and 24 security and fuel personnel. They don't have to wait long for the flight of 4 Black Hawk helicopters to arrive, perfectly on schedule. Loaded with elite American Special Forces operators, the Black Hawks will continue their journey to their objective, land, and then return to top up for fuel for the return flight. At that point, the C-130 and its crew will also depart. An hour and a half of flight time in, the Blackhawks climb high, briefly breaking the low cover that's kept them out of sight of any local radars. The U.S. is operating without host nation knowledge or permission, fearful that sympathizers within the government would give the raid away. They fly within sight of local civilian radars for no more than 4 minutes before rapidly descending again, this time into the heart of a compound made up of converted farming buildings. Most of the buildings are home to women and children, complete with a school and a workshop where residents craft homemade goods to sell in the local markets. But one building stands...
Is this the Osama bin Laden
I'm not sure,
takedown?
Actually.
apart.
Maybe it
Identified
is.
through drone surveillance and on-the-ground reconnaissance, it's been confirmed as housing a classified number of high-value targets sought by the U.S. government. This entire compound is a terror hub, financed by any number of African al-Qaeda-backed offshoots, where fighters live along with their families. One of the Blackhawks takes back up to the sky, where a door gunner keeps overwatch with his door-mounted M134 Gatling gun. There's no need for heavy firepower, though. The lightning raid catches the entire compound by surprise. Before the women and children, still groggy and rubbing sleep from their eyes, can step outside, the Blackhawks are already lifting off. On board are 4 high-value targets, long sought by the U.S. government for their deep connections to the upper ranks of global terror networks. And the intelligence that captured them was all ensnared by Room 641A. How it works is simple. When you place a phone call or send an email, it's all routed from local to national networks. Outgoing messages and calls destined for other countries transition from national to international networks, key arteries of global communication that rely on satellites and thick undersea fiber optic cables. But at some point in their journey, every call and email has to go through a digital switching station to ensure it arrives where it's meant to go. All the NSA had to do was tap into one of those global arteries. To avoid being overwhelmed by the staggering flood of data, NSA systems are programmed to scan for specific keywords. Combined with simple artificial intelligence, the computers in Room 641A and many sister stations around the country can flag any communication that might hint at a potential terror plot. These are then passed on to human analysts to pore over and identify real threats from false ones. Initially, the NSA denied that it had this power, instead stating that its systems only kept records such as call length and destination. This would be helpful if tapping into the communications of known terrorists. But the NSA wasn't looking for known terrorists. It was looking to sniff out plots being cooked up by unknown actors that were flying under the radar. This necessitated far more intrusive monitoring of American and global communications that would be in violation of constitutional rights. Sort of. In 2002, an executive order granted the NSA and other agencies the authority to monitor international phone calls and emails without a warrant. It was later argued that this fell within the NSA's parameters and it did not violate the Constitution, as it targeted communications involving at least one party outside of U.S. borders and individuals with known links to terror groups. Despite this, the NSA was secretly obtaining permission to wiretap nearly all domestic communications. This revelation led the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or EFF, armed with information from whistleblower Mark Klein, to file a lawsuit against AT&T. With the government shielded by the sweeping powers granted to intelligence agencies after 9/11 and the Patriot Act, the EFF instead targeted the companies facilitating this domestic surveillance directly. The federal government sought to have the case dismissed, but a federal judge initially rejected the motion. However, the case was ultimately dropped on December 29, 2011, after Congress granted retroactive immunity to telecommunications companies that had cooperated with government wiretapping activities. Ultimately, Room 641A faded into obscurity, exactly the outcome agencies like the NSA prefer for their most secretive operations. The real question would be if the unconstitutional monitoring of American telecommunications ever led to any intelligence of real value, or, for the more sinister-minded, if it was used to suppress domestic political activity. On the latter front, the answer is obviously no. There's no indication that the government used illegal wiretapping carried out in the war on terror to punish or prosecute political dissidents. But on the former, the conclusion becomes murky. According to public sources, programs like Room 641A led to, on average, 10 leads per year on terror suspects or threats, with few, if any, of those panning out to be real. Yet we do know that wiretapping programs have led to numerous foiled plots, such as the 2009 Zajibullah Zazi plot to bomb a New York subway and a plot to attack U.S. soldiers at Fort Dix in 2007. Intelligence agencies are notoriously secretive about their tools and their effectiveness, ensuring that adversaries, be they foreign spies or terrorists, are denied any potential advantage. But one thing is for sure, the NSA is not done monitoring global communications for plots. Situated in the heart of Manhattan, 33 Thomas Street is another AT&T building built in the brutalist style. This building houses a major switching center, and it's built to withstand nuclear fallout from a nearby direct hit. It's stocked with enough supplies to keep employees working and communications running for up to 2 weeks in the aftermath of a national disaster. And naturally, it's suspected to be the site of NSA wiretapping activities. What do you think about Room 641A? Vital for security or a threat to privacy? Share your thoughts in the comments.
What do you think?
All of the above.
Yeah,
it just makes you wonder sometimes when I know I get they've got to look at terrorism and, you know, get wiretaps out there and things like that, but it just makes you wonder how far they go with it sometimes. Not just US, I mean all countries with surveillance and things like that, you know, with China and things like that, how far they actually go sort of thing. You know.
I agree with you. I think it's definitely something that's where's the line drawn? As I say, that's what we need it for. But again, national security in any country, wherever you're living in the world, you know, it's paramount, and it's
absolutely, of course, it is. Yeah,
I just think, you know, the leading technology makes you always wonder as well about things that are happening like now. Are they like a consequence of what happened prior? You know, it's sort of like done that full circle of coming around and saying, right, well, this is what's going to happen now.
Yeah. Maybe
because of what happened in the past.
Yeah.
You know, it's talking about telecommunications and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and tracking and stuff like that. And, you know,
I think
foiled attempts at all kinds of stuff that goes on.
I think when it comes to tracking and listening to people's phone calls and this, that, and the other, and I think it's sort of like the cat's out the bag to a certain extent.
Yeah,
with all these, certainly with
a
lot of government agencies, I think they're sort of like, you know, I think you can sort of not do it any time they want, but pretty much so. They've got the technology to sort of like
nowadays,
pretty much find out anything in any particular way. But I think most developed countries have as well, haven't they?
Well, so when you look at it from things like TikTok being banned because of potential security issues, or Huawei, who's launching a load of like telecommunication towers in this country, and the USA, and I think they were banned in the USA. So there's loads of different things you got to look for and think,
Well, how many times have we said ourselves with our phones that they're always listening, where you talk about things, then all of a sudden adverts come on about things that you would talk about maybe cars or like takeaways or this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden an advert, it's like it's directly targeted at you, comes up, and you think that just isn't a coincidence.
Yeah,
I've always wondered. Do it, so
I've always wondered. You get that on your phone, right? But don't know if I'm at home watching like football at home, and it comes on with an advert. I'm wondering if that advert on the TV is targeting me as well. Or whether that's just a national blanket right across the board that everyone sees.
I would guess that'd be a national blanket. I think that'd be a lot more difficult to do, sort of like
through the TV. But it won't be because my TV's plugged into the internet still.
Yeah,
I know. Different.
I just think I don't know. I think that'd be a lot more difficult. You could be right, but I think that'd be a lot more difficult because TV companies pay for a certain amount of advertising time, don't they? And to get it all linked up for the same
would be a lot, wouldn't it?
For like, say 3 minutes 31 seconds for all the adverts to come together with like a live program. I think that'd be pretty difficult to do, but probably not beyond the realms of possibility, and probably something that will happen. In fact, you're probably right there, because a lot of these smart TVs, like I say, they're all linked up to the internet, aren't they?
So correct.
Maybe it's a gap in the market there, mate. Maybe you come up with something.
I'm thinking that's fucking 20 years ago, mate. That's well old. Yeah, it'd be more modern shit now.
It's also it's just frightening. I mean, everyone's listening to everything you do, I think, these days. You know what I mean? It's
be careful, right?
Frightening.
Be careful what you divulge.
Yeah.
Anyway. Anyway, it's good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was.
Someone's gonna have to let us know that building they were talking about. They mentioned Africa, but then it sort of like mentioned Afghanistan.
That's right.
Yeah, Afghanistan's obviously not Africa, but I was just interested in to find out who that was, who they took, the prime targets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it said 4 operatives, didn't it?
Yeah, four people of interest.
Yeah, not sure who they were exactly.
No, same. Same. I wonder if it was that guy with the scraggy hair that got took to Guantanamo and all that.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Oh, God.
Picture his face, picture the mugshot they had of him. Just can't think of his name. But anyway, let us know if you know.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.
Cheers.
Cheers.